Hello me old flowers, my name is Aisling and as per usual you are very welcome. I am here today to talk about books. So specifically today I'm going to do a bit of a book haul, but not your traditional book haul in that I went out and spent my money on books, which I sometimes do, but what I've been trying to do lately is to utilise my library a little bit more. Now, my local library is a quite small library, so chances are what I'm looking for isn't normally there, but there is the option to place 12 holds online, up to 12 holds online on books that I would like to read. So I find the library great because I can order books that are a little bit out of left field for me, so books that I might not necessarily read otherwise, might not take a chance on spending my own money on. So that's why these books might seem a little bit different than kind of what I might usually read. So let's get cracking into it. So today, straight into it, the first book that I have here is my best friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. So this is my second Grady Hendrix book that I've read. I read Horror Store earlier this month. I won't speak too much on that at the moment, but okay. So this was actually the one that I wanted to read more than Horror Store, so I'm quite looking forward to it. We follow in 1988, I believe, in South Carolina. We follow a girl called Abby and her best friend Gretchen as they grow up together. So as they go through childhood and then into high school, more so is where we're kind of settled on in our story. And Abby and Gretchen, after a night out or after a night skinny dipping, something somewhere has gone wrong and one of them seems a little bit off. So the story follows both of them as they try to figure out what has gone wrong and has one of them become possessed or not. So I'm quite looking forward to this book. It is not a book that I would buy myself usually, but I'm going to give it a go. I've heard some really good reviews about it, even from people who didn't necessarily enjoy Horror Store, but they've enjoyed this one a lot. I've heard it's a bit of fun. I've heard it's a little bit creepy, but not too scary. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'll let you know how we go toward the end of the month. The next book that I picked up is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. Now, this is absolutely not a book that I would normally pick up. I don't tend to read thrillers all too often, but because of the library, I'm reading them a little bit more lately. I like them plainly for the fact that you can read them really quickly. They're easy to read. They're normally quite engrossing. The story moves quite quickly. So we're going to give this one a go. I've seen quite a lot of it on Bookstagram and a little bit about it on BookTube as well. So we follow a girl named Emma, and Emma, like any of us, likes to read books, and I believe she is house sitting kind of in the middle of nowhere. She may or may not have a dog with her, but I think that's it. Essentially, she doesn't really know the area, and even if she did, there's not much in it anyway. Like any of us, Emma leaves a little bit of a review online on, say, the equivalent of Goodreads or the Storygraph, and the author finds out about it and isn't best impressed. And Emma starts to find that things in the house are going a little bit awry, just a little bit strange, unusual things are happening, and she's starting to get worried that it may have something to do with this miffed author. Initially, I thought the concept was quite interesting, especially because I know that there was a similar kind of case recently where a bookstagrammer did post a review on their Instagram page that wasn't necessarily negative. It had a lot of positive points in it, but they said that the book kind of wasn't for them, and the author came and started to comment on the post about how they were wrong and how they clearly didn't get it, and then commenting on things, and the author got very much more involved than maybe she should have. I don't know how that resolved or has that resolved. It kind of reminded me of that real life story, and I thought this might be interesting to read about, and hopefully the real life story isn't quite as sinister as The Last Word. The next book that I've picked up from the library, I could have potentially seen myself picking this up, spending my money on it, but I knew it was available from my library, so I put it as a hold. So it's the first of a series. So this one is called Graceling, and it's by Kristen Cashore, and I believe it was her debut back in 2008 now. But we follow Katza and a world in which she has what's known as a grace. So I think it's something like a magical ability or some kind of magical skill, something along those lines. And she lives a life of royalty as such, but she is forced to use her own grace, in which she is able to kill using her grace. So she's in high demand, and that's kind of all I know about this book. It is a fantasy. It was published, I believe, in 2008, so I am expecting it to be a little bit outdated. I've noticed lately with books that I've been reading from kind of the mid to early noughties that even in this short space of time, they used to use quite a lot of language that we would not use nowadays. So I've definitely been noticing that. So I have heard really good things about this book, though I'm not even sure where I came across this first. I believe it was, you know, some random booktube video or something along those lines, but I am looking forward to it. I believe it's young adult as well. So that's Graceling. The next one that we have is absolutely one that I would have bought myself, but I did happen to come across it as an option in my library, so I picked it up this way. I am not generally a memoir reader, but this is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, and I read her other book, which is Her Body and Other Parties, which is a collection of short stories. I have it here on my shelf. I absolutely loved it. But I haven't read the memoir. Now, her memoir is, I believe, quite heavy and centers around a relationship that she was involved in which there was quite a lot of abuse from her partner. I don't know too much about it, but I've heard that it's quite a heavy read and that it's quite an unusual format for a memoir. So there are a lot of different chapters that start like Dream House as perpetual motion machine, Dream House as picturesque. So I've heard of it as being quite surreal in its ways, but also quite heavy hitting. As I said, I'm not normally much of a memoir reader, but I am looking forward to this. I really like her writing style, kind of very genre bending, very gothic, very bizarre, but very good. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this. I hope it's not too heavy, because lately I haven't really been in the mood for books that are a bit of a strain mentally to read. So hopefully I'll enjoy this as much as you can enjoy a book about an abusive relationship. I believe that there will be quite a few trigger warnings for this book, but hopefully I can get through it okay, and I'll chat to you about it at the end of the month. And then I have one more book that I got from the library, and this is a book that was self-published, I believe, in about 2013. So it is Angel Fall by Susan E. Yes, had to check that one. And this one we follow Penryn, and Penryn lives in a world in which we come into the story after an apocalypse where angels have come down from heaven and they have obliterated the earth. They have killed so many people. Everybody's afraid. The streets are absolutely just fear-inducing. Everything's terrifying. Nobody knows why these angels have come. Nobody knows what the story is. So we see angels not as the benevolent creatures that we are normally used to seeing them as, and more so as fearmongers. And so I believe there is some disability representation in this, as in Penryn's sister uses a wheelchair. She's not able to walk. I think she has either broken her spine or there's something wrong with her legs. So I'm interested to see how the disability representation plays out from the perspective of a book that has, one, been self-published, and two, has been around for over a decade. So yes, also I think Penryn's mother is schizophrenic, so it will be interesting to see how that is represented in the book as well. I always feel nervous about disability representation and mental health, mental illness representation in books, because it can go so very wrong so very quickly. So I will let you know as we go. I don't normally read a whole lot of self-published books, so this will be interesting. I know that this is the start of I think a trilogy, if not a series as well, so I wonder if this is something that I will continue on with. So at the moment, those are the 5 books that I have out from my library. I'm looking forward to getting into them. I also find that because I normally have about 3 weeks to read them, sometimes I can renew them, sometimes not, depending on how many people are waiting on them. It kind of spurs me on to read books quite quickly that maybe I would have left sit on my shelf for a long time otherwise. So that has been great as well. I haven't been able to be as subject to mood reading as per usual. So let me know if you have read any of these books, if you have any thoughts, opinions or comments about any of these books. Let me know how you're doing. I would love it if you could like, comment or subscribe if this is your kind of thing. If not, that's perfectly okay. I've loved talking to you. I hope you're minding yourself and minding each other, and I'll chat to you next week with another video. Mind yourself. Bye bye.